2 days since the code red, the retaliation, the undisputable retaliation that Richard received for being a whistleblower, um, starting with a setup to discredit him as a whistleblower. And how do you do that? You try to turn the whistleblower into a criminal. And of course, Fort Bliss tries to turn our sons and daughters, and it's not funny. It really isn't funny. I don't know how to react with my emotions when I think about our leadership choosing to have these security breaches all over the place on Fort Bliss, including, um, unregistered weapons, the weapon smuggling, the drugs flowing in, uh, you know, um, so much so that the barracks are marketplaces for illegal drugs. And of course, the human sex trafficking, all part of Fort Bliss. And so if they can bring in 14-year-old girls and let them live in the barracks and be pimped out, if they can bring in all the drugs, the fentanyl laced medications, and all of that into the barracks and create a marketplace for it, um, a depository, if they can allow the child porn to be distributed, created, and distributed, if they can, allow the unregistered weapons flooding the barracks, making it flush with weapons, quote unquote. And dirty agent Marlon Soto was like, it wasn't just Richard's barracks building; it was all the barracks on Fort Bliss that were flush with weapons. And I'm like, okay, there is a security breach. There is a security problem. So if they're letting this happen to our volunteer sons and daughters on our military installations, what else is happening? What else is happening, and what else is happening behind the scenes that we don't know about when it comes to mortuary affairs? What are they doing in mortuary affairs? What are they doing at the VA there? What are they doing with the big bucks? Because we know that the Pentagon has trillions of dollars unaccounted for. They get all this funding, and then it goes missing. It goes unaccounted, and it's like, oh well, we got a secret weapon or whatever. No, no, we don't want secret weapons. We want those weapons to be known to the world, to stop, to know that we are a strong country. All this secret weapon stuff. Yeah, if it has to be secret with public funding, that should be really scrutinized. Um, because what is more dangerous than a nuclear weapon, right? Um, it's all so it needs to be scrutinized, okay? Because this missing money, uh, you know, is can be easily used for criminal activities or to go into someone's pocket. And we need the accounting because, our country pays that money. We, the people, have suffered because of paying for that money. And we're not getting any results, right? We're not getting any results except for unsecured military installations and our sons and daughters being raped and drugged and um, murdered, missing, uh, and so many other unnecessary crimes and terrible things imposed on them. Absolutely unnecessary, because we saw that during the COVID, if they want to lockstep, if they want to secure, they could do it. They could absolutely do it. But we have a security breach, and someone's, benefiting from it, and that's why we need an accounting. And I remember at one of our meetings with the dirty, very dirty Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe, who needs to be stripped from his uniform, stripped from every privilege. He needs to be arrested for crimes against humanity. At one of those meetings, I suggested, have you, and I asked, have you subpoenaed these bank accounts because you follow the money? If you have a missing soldier for so long, and where is he? Where is Richard? Right? Then you need to follow the money. Of course, there's illegal activity, and there's absolutely overwhelming evidence, hard facts, irregularities, and circumstantial evidence that point to criminal activity, a criminal syndicate, a criminal enterprise going on at Fort Bliss. And so when all the evidence is pointing to that in so many ways, they're just making money in every which way they can off the backs of the Americans while committing crimes off using American funds. Um, then they need to absolutely look at these bank accounts and follow the money. And, so that is very clear. And you should have seen their faces when I suggested that, have you looked at their bank accounts? They were all like, oh my God, because, because a lot of them are guilty. They are guilty. Absolutely, Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe is so guilty of crimes against humanity, along with General McConville, along with Lieutenant General Donna Martin, along with, like now, Major General James Eisenhower, General Garrett, absolutely, Major General Clem Coward, right? So, all of that needs to be uh, we need to retrench. We need to retrench. Clean that out. Clean that. They need to absolutely be removed from there. They need to be arrested. They need to be arrested. So let's look to make sure I'm on. It was a great day today. And I'm just going over the notes of the information that's coming in. And it's so overwhelming. And I know, I have this front row seat, this front row daily seat in all this information, hate crime information. Absolutely. When I mention hate crimes, that information is coming in. And of course, the psyops, um, mind control, uh, with Patrick Crucius's father wrote a book about mind control, uh, and it seems computers are involved in this. Um, of course, that is a daily concern. Is this mind control? It's a concern for the freedom lovers. We don't want people to be lockstep like zombies, like robots. We don't want that. We want people to have their individuality and be able to pursue the God given talents that they have been granted with. And, so we're concerned with that. Whereas the evildoers, the wrongdoers, they are concerned with mind control because they want to control your mind, right? They want to control your mind. They want to know how to control vast populations and lockstep them like tin men. And, and if you think differently, get punished for it. So that's why they act like political attack machines. Like El Paso Matters has absolutely acted in lockstep with a political attack machine. And Leilani Hart. It seems like all roads lead in this case to Leilani Hart. I wonder if Patrick Crucius Road will lead to Leilani Hart, because it seems to be very political. It seems that um, the political attack machine uh, leads to Leilani Hart in this case. In this case, points to that because of the protection. She should absolutely be arrested. We have information that that investigation is ongoing, and we're just waiting. We're just praying that that news that we're getting is true, and maybe the investigation is um, going to wait for this divorce, these divorce proceedings that are happening in the next few days that we will be looking at um, closely, because it's it's not me that inserted Leilani Hart into our son's case. It's not. Um, make sure I'm on. We went for a good year. Let's see how long. A good year and a half, not even knowing about Leilani Hart. Um, we didn't really pursue, for a long time. We protected the military. We have proof. We have the live streams every day, that records a journal that shows the journey that we have taken in the investigation of our son. And we worked with so many people that were up to no good, like Dirty Agent Marlon Soto, who's absolutely implicated in this. And we have filed a complaint against him, and that is ongoing. And also against, um, I mean, look at Dirty Agent Tavita Nusa. He lost his badge. That happened before I found out about him. He lost his badge. And his brother. I want to make clear, these connections. Leilani Hart is having an affair with, and she says cousin, but I don't know if they're real cousins. But James Hart said they're cousins. I don't know what that means, cousins. Um, I know they're both Samoan, but I don't know. Dallas Hart told me his mother's not really Samoan. We don't really know who Leilani Hart is. Who is she? She could be some kind of Chinese spy for all we know. We don't know who she is. We don't know her name. Um, we don't. Uh, it's um, it's well, we're getting there. We're getting there. But it's all so the identity theft is there, you see, and that's what confuses everything. There's clear evidence of some kind of immigration anomalies, social security numbers being used, multiple social security numbers being used by Leilani Hart, and these different names, and uh, just strange things, very strange. So anyway, well, she's in connection with Tavita Nusa. Well, Tavita Nusa, being Samoan, also has a brother that's also in the military, and he's mortuary affairs. Okay, and mortuary affairs plays a big role in all of this. Um, and you know, really, if I want to put my thoughts out there, my allegations out there, my concerns, I'm like, what is going on here with all of this identity fraud and connections with mortuary affairs and the 3905 Bliss Avenue, 3705 Bliss Avenue? What is going on that they see they um, seem to be very connected to mortuary affairs from William Beaumont Army Medical Center, right? What's going on with that? And then you have these connections, these people that are connected with that address, that are connected with the funeral business, that are connected with the mortuary affairs business. And then you look at the medical examiner, and there's all these anomalies. Why are there all these anomalies around this medical examiner? And, why is there such a battle, to get these open records to expose um, these anomalies, so you got Lalani Hart uh, connected with these people. And of course, her son, Dallas Hart, which is weird because there's identity theft there too. There's identity theft, and we know that Richard's identity has been stolen. We know that. We know that his social security number has been used. We know that right from the get go, they try to control the narrative of the connections online by stealing our concern, our investigative find Richard Halliday, right? Stealing Richard Halliday's name and trying to make this alternative narrative that is a psyop, Um, we know that that's a fact. That's a fact. They're still doing it, and they're allowed to do it. They're allowed to do it, and I think they're paid to do it because it is really interesting to see people daily spend this much time. Don't they have a life? Don't they have a life? It's really strange. They're either guilty as hell or being paid. Um, and, one or the other. I guess there can be a multiple choice question on, what's behind all of it because they are definitely connected to this case. And there's no denying that. And they have absolutely committed crimes and stolen Richard's identity. And that is like a micro crime in all of this. Okay. So that's why I don't focus on it too much. Um, because I think it's so obvious in today's world that they are up to no good and they are trying to conduct what they've successfully done in the years past is control the thoughts and the minds and the narratives of criminal activities in their favor, in the criminal's favor. And so that's why we see all the corruption that we do within the Department of Justice, within the military command structure, within the government agencies. That has given them a catalyst of a lot of money to operate their criminal syndicates, sweet little business plans that they use, that they create on the backs of the American taxpayer. Because if the American taxpayer pays for the buildings, pay for their air conditioning, pay for uh, their taxes or water, their even their pensions, even their salaries, and also for the weapons, for their paper, for their printers, for their computers, all of that, and they can carry out their weapons trafficking and they can carry out their human sex trafficking and they can then sell the the other unsuspecting employees and military service members, um, porn and, um, you know, and drugs and everything, and give them give them PTSD, and then sell them drugs for that. You know, it is a sweet little business plan, and uh, but a very, very, very evil one, a very deadly one, a very destructive one, a very deceptive one, very deceptive. And that's why identity theft is so serious, because it's so deceptive. And, you know, when you insert the mortuary affairs, so you have someone like Leilani Hart, a convicted criminal, totally convicted criminal, with a long, I've read off all some there's only some, because it's very, very extensive, all of the crimes that she has created, all of the trouble, and it seems like she's protected. So, it's like, who is she? That she is not in jail right now, that she's whatever. Um, so if you have someone like her who is in the family that she's in, which is the LDS family, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints family, who is now constantly in the news about covering up sexual abuse, right? And if they're going to do sexual abuse, there's other crimes that precede that. It's a spiral down into the deepest darkness, where there's gnashing of teeth and wailing and crying, right? It's a spiral downward. So, you just don't all of a sudden turn into a child predator. You do not all of a sudden, um, get into weapons trafficking, right? Or human trafficking, or even the drug trafficking. And that's what was so absurd about how we knew that Marlon Soto was absolutely either totally low IQ, or in on this, that he was a dirty agent. It turns out he's a dirty agent. Um, and that's because, you just don't get into those kinds of organized, very protected. You can't just become all of a sudden a drug dealer, right? Because there's turfs, y'all. Such big money that people want monopolies, and there are drug wars and things like that. And you just can't just go in there and say, okay, I want to be a drug dealer, or I want to get into the drug business, or whatever. Um, I've got some Hollywood money here I can invest. Do you take that? No, it was just the most absurd allegations. And of course, they were manufactured, false allegations against Richard. And praise God for Alma. Um, oh, escapes my name, but the judge, her first name is Alma Trejo. Uh, Alma Trejo, who, absolutely said, look, this is absurd, and I'm not falling for it. I'm not falling for it. And this soldier is has no record, no record. Okay, so this is and remember the whole Interpol. The whole Interpol is based off of, and we're just waiting. Everything takes time. Um, the whole Interpol is based on false information, right? Totally false information. And that could have only come from, that we're thinking, the FBI, um, or Dirty Agent Marlon Soto. Dirty Agent Marlon Soto working through the FBI, through dirty Lieutenant General Donna Martin, who is the Inspector General of the Army right now, who needs to be arrested, needs to be stripped from her uniform, stripped from every privilege, um, and absolutely tried for her oh my gosh, so many crimes. Her fraud, her absolute fraud, and her dereliction of duty that has caused so much pain and suffering. It's just, it's hard to explain to people the level of criminal activity the this circle of people are involved in. So these, yeah, they're total criminals. Um, so the Interpol picture, uh, one is there, and then the other one, why is Dallas Hart's face matching so perfectly on that picture? Why has that picture absolutely been manipulated? You can put it into any forensic measurement tool and know that the measurements for Richard's face is does not match that picture, yet it matches very well of Dallas Hart. I don't think that is, this is all about identity theft. This is all about manipulation and the deception of the truth. And so uh, and it is about placing criminals into very key positions in our government that that cause a lot of trouble that go along with the criminal syndicate, right? That go along with this. And this is nothing new in history. It's always happened, and it's happened here in our country now. And I think Richard's case, along with the Patrick Crucius case, is exposing that with many others. You know, Vanessa Guillen's case is so important in all of this because it sheds a light on the corruption that was happening at Fort Hood, Fort Covassos today. It sheds that light on that corruption, and people had uh, seen that corruption in Vanessa Guillen's case, and of course, in Enrique Roman Martinez's case, it's a little bit harder to see it in Elder Fernandez's case. They do it so well when it comes to suiciding our soldiers, making their life so miserable that they just feel like they have no way out. That and I think we believe that they tried to do that with Richard, with all of the retaliation, with all of the bullying, with all of the setup of trying to make him into a criminal, and the allegations. There were manufactured allegations against him that we are starting to get in, and with the open records, we can shed more light on those false allegations and who made those false allegations, who signed off on it, because we have that uh, in the documents that we have already received. We have names of these false allegations, and getting the information that Belen Rocha um, is the one that made the 911 call to set Richard up. That needs to be totally answered because that was really shocking. But in the same time, it was like, oh, yeah, let's look into that. Um, and Belen Rocha could absolutely clarify that, right? It's just like our question for Eddie Rocha, her father. Are they in the mortuary affairs business? Is he a contractor with mortuary affairs? What does he do with these deceased bodies? When he has no integrity at all, why is he a contractor for mortuary affairs? Because these deceased bodies need to be handled with integrity, with honor, careful, very careful, right? Because these are people's loved ones. And if there is, and I say if, this is where the circumstantial evidence, this is where the irregularities, because we have these autopsies and we have um, the so many witness testimonies that paint a picture with all of the irregularities. Um, it paints a picture of corruption within Fort Bliss in every section of it. And I'm not saying that all the service members are corrupt. I'm saying there's a circle, a really well positioned circle in the agencies in certain positions that have been corrupted. And and mortuary affairs is not immune to that because Tavita Nusa, who has no integrity at all, who lost his badge, who gave unauthorized access to Lilani Hart to many files, many files. She had it really in to hurt her husband, James Hart. And, why? Why did she really, really hate him and have it in for him? Well, she wrote it down, didn't she? She wrote it down and she notarized it. And on the 22nd of July of 2020, and we believe now that that was after Richard was murdered. We don't believe it was the day before Richard was murdered. Now, we could be wrong. We're looking into that. The timeline is, when you're really efficient and you like to delete messages and phone calls and stuff like that. um yeah. I keep all my stuff. But it's the timeline is definitely a little bit off there. And so Lalani Hart, um, reported why she hates her husband, didn't she? And she notarized it and she um, put it into a criminal complaint. She put it into a notarized criminal complaint. And it seems like, um, I don't know, I guess she got weary of participating. That would be the best scenario. Um, uh, because she's just blaming James Hart for everything, right? She's just blaming him for everything while she's actually confessing to her own dereliction and to her own crimes. And what is she reporting? Why does she hate him? Well, because of the sexual abuse, right? Sexual abuse because of threatening her with a weapon that was not registered, that was illegally bought. Why is she threatening and why does she hate him? Because he threatens her with her immigration status, right? Um, e- that's where we got that from, right? Because it came from her notarized criminal complaint. And, so he's threatening her while while he's engaged in a history, decades long incestuous relationship in their family with the children and forcing the children to be incestuous, forcing them to be incestuous. And I can tell you, you when you first read it, you're like, what? But now we have witnesses within the LDS Church that sexual incestuous crimes are being committed and that the Mormons know it and they're covering it up. They're covering it up. They choose to allow children and women and the men to live in this incestuous, very destructive relationship. They are choosing to let it happen and let it continue. Um, and then they say they're patriots. Well, that doesn't help our country. That doesn't help our country, Mitt Romney. That doesn't help our country, Rona McDaniel Romney. That doesn't help our country. No. Um, and why am I'm picking them out? Well, because uh, Mitt Romney has power and he has invested interest in that area, in that El Paso area, in that Fort Bliss area, because his father, uh, was one of the founders of Colonial Juarez. Okay, Colonial Juarez. Go look it up. Nova Casa Grandes, which is the Mormon stronghold, um, right there in Mexico, in Chihuahua, Mexico. And, there is all the way from there, all the way up into Utah. There is, just a lot of invested interest. This is where these families are. And he is uh, a leader in the Mormon church, a leader in the politics. And of course, nothing happens without the politics. And he has chosen to be against uh, the border being monitored, right? He has chosen to be an arch enemy of um, the vast amount of people that want the border controlled, right? I wouldn't say people want it closed and like locked in, no, but they want it closed with a gate where people have to come through a gate and have checks, right? And I would even say that the planes um, need to start being checked, right? Uh, I don't know. I don't know. I have to hear the arguments on both sides of that. But absolutely, this border problem, it, sorry, this border problem is is very much part of this because you see the likes of Mitt Romney, Senator Mitt Romney, that was running for president, um, very, very big leader in both the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter day Saints and in the politics of the United States. You see him being an arch enemy of his own base, because he claims to be a Republican. Okay, so the Republican base at this time wants the borders to be checked, to be absolutely protected. And he's going against his base. And he's not just going against his base, he is like an enemy of his own base, which is, I mean, that's very telling. That is very, very, very telling, because it is very, very clear that the Republican base, and I want to make it also clear to everybody that, and I'll put my record out there. I voted for Perot. I voted for Ron Paul. I voted, um, and yes, I voted for Trump. I voted for George Bush, regrettably. Regrettably. So normally, um, and I'm going to put that out there. Normally, for me, it's all about the small businesses, the economics, the freedom of people to open up a business and not be hindered by government regulations and everything that would put them out of business and favor the big box companies. Um, that's really, uh, a litmus test on who I vote for. Um, it's not, of course, this whole abortion thing, but I don't think that um, the government, I think this it's a broader problem. But absolutely, how I vote is based on small business opportunity. And of course, Ross Perot was all about that. Ron Paul was all about that. And of course, Trump was all about that. And mistakenly, I thought that the Bush family was, but they're not. They're not. That was a psyop. That was a psyop. And maybe the other. No, I don't know. I just feel like I'm confident in the others. But but yeah. So that is. I want to put that on record. Um, because when I'm talking about Mitt Romney, who absolutely I would never have voted for, never, never, and because I saw it that he was not at all for small businesses, not for um, he just was for the big box stores. And so that was had nothing to do with his religion, had nothing to do with, well, maybe a little bit, um, because I just thought that the LDS, who is very, very powerful, very, very wealthy, might get favorable treatment by him. But that's with anybody that comes in there with um, their religious beliefs and that. But you have to take that into consideration. But Mitt Romney absolutely shows his colors by not um, by choosing to have that whole area be a criminal syndicate. I mean, he's very wealthy. I don't think you get wealthy on like that with selling fruit. Um, Something is going on, and maybe that's an allegation, but you know them by their fruit, right? And this whole exposure of of the crimes being committed and it touching mortuary affairs, touching into mortuary affairs, into messing with identities. Have they, and we know that Richard's identity has been messed with. Has his remains been messed with? And was it, planned? Was it because um, everything was so chaotic in 2020 that time had gone by? Um, Enough time had gone by that, was he abducted? What happened? We know there are huge anomalies with the medical examiner, with the autopsies, with his remains, that they don't even want to give us an answer. They don't want to give us a definitive answer. And it is very, very confusing when you talk about Richard and his remains. Um, what have they done with him? And it's taken me a couple weeks to um, be able to talk about this. It was, but if Eddie Rocha is involved and Leilani Hart is involved and Tanya Katzen is involved with Danae Katzen, with those, there's others, um, with identity theft, with the mortuary affairs. Okay, and they messed with Richard's remains. Please God, let that not be the case. Um, and then Richard's case being connected with those same people that handled the deceased of the Patrick Crucius case. Um, I hope that that's not the truth, but this medical examiner is supposed to be the medical examiner that handled the deceased in the Patrick Crucius case, and and you know, very suspect connections to these same people, to 3905 Bliss Avenue, um, 3705 Bliss Avenue. And when it comes to insurance, and so if you have identity theft and you have deceased people and you have insurance um, fraud, please let that not be in addition to their other criminal activities involving the drugs and the trafficking and and um, the pornography and all this other criminal activity. Uh, you know, then now we have this mortuary affairs um, corruption. And, what's really scary to me is that Amber Chase was involved in mortuary affairs. Eddie Rocha involved in mortuary affairs. Wow, that's scary because, these deceased loved ones have to be handled with dignity and love and with all due respect. And I can tell you, the character uh, or is more than suspect of being just degenerate. And yeah, very questionable. And I know I might get a hit for that one, but it's the truth, in my opinion. It is so the truth after 3 months of suffering and years of suffering their degeneracy. When you're saying, "Where's my son? Where's my son?" and they're trying to turn him into a criminal that is, totally absurdity, and they're doing that into the law enforcement community, and spreading these terrible narratives. And then you find out that, because we have confirmation that we have FBI informants involved in this, and we have confirmation that even Josh Lyons, Lieutenant Colonel Josh Lyons, um, uh, was up to no good, and their psychological warfare against the people of this country so that they can continue to do these crimes is very apparent. Very apparent. And I think El Paso Matters and the Leilani Hart collaboration with El Paso Matters and Angela Kachurga, with David Poche, and Bob Moore's, blessing on the whole thing, is very obvious to anybody that's paying attention, because if you are a newspaper, you do not, especially when you get public funding like they do, right? They get public funding, they get tax-free status, the 501c3 status, um, to be so biased, to leave out that Leilani Hart is a, oh, by the way, this so-called veteran, and she's a veteran, 100% disabled veteran. She's a 100% disabled veteran. Um, and to me, that needs to be scrutinized, because her husband works, on the soon to be divorced, uh, works on the medical board, for veterans disability benefits, right? That's kind of clever. That's very clever. So, um, so here she is, and by the way, she's a convicted criminal, and for lying to law enforcement authorities. And by the way, she is accusing her family of being incestuous, for decades, right? And for raping her friend's child, multiple members of her household, in her master bedroom. By the way, this is what's going on in her life. She has, um, a, a criminal history on Fort Bliss. She has a long, long criminal history wherever she goes, and she has some kind of immigration status problem. Um, and she's using other people's social security numbers. Oh, okay, but we're going to say that this source, we have to take her seriously. No, she's an unreliable source, and El Paso Matters used her to, uh, collaborate with, to obstruct justice, to tamper with a witness in the Vanessa Guillen first absent soldiers case. Okay, let's wrap our heads around that. And the military allowed that. That's so disrespectful to Vanessa Guillen and her family. So disrespectful. And they choose to be disrespectful to Vanessa Guillen again. Again. Um, and El Paso Matters participated in that. And Angela Kachurga participated in that. And Leilani Hart participated in that. And, if you are um, the Vanessa Guillen supporters, you need to realize what they have done here. And, it is so disgusting. So disgusting. And I hope that you contact the Guillen family to let them know what Leilani Hart, a convicted criminal, and Angela Kachurga, the employee to El Paso Matters, with taxpayer money, with, and the blessing of Fort Bliss Command, the blessing of dirty Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe, dirty with his SJAPP McGee, I mean filthy. They are the lowest scum, with General McConville, with Lieutenant General Donna Martin. They need to be arrested. They absolutely need to be arrested. And with the blessing of these uh, occupants of our beautiful uniforms, our beautiful uniforms. Okay? They're occupying them and disrespecting the memory of Vanessa Guillen and all the work that the Vanessa Guillen and all of the supporters have done by blocking the truth from coming out of the very first Vanessa Guillen, first absent soldier, Richard Halliday. It is really unbelievably disgusting. Um, they do not have the soldiers back. They do not have the female soldiers' well being in mind. They do not care about the memory of viciously murdered soldiers such as Vanessa Guillen. And we have Thomas Kane, the director of emergency services, who, with all the information that we have, we believe that he's telling the truth. He, in writing, said that Richard's case is like Vanessa Guillen, meaning that he was dismembered, he was murdered and dismembered. It was Thomas Kane who said that. Richard was a good meal for the coyotes. Okay, that was Thomas Kane. That that was Thomas Kane. Okay, that's not me. That is the director of emergency services, the chief of security of Fort Bliss, who said that. And I think that is just, yeah, if we can wrap our heads around that. And they're showing more like a worship to Leilani Hart rather than honor and respect to Vanessa Guillen and to Richard Halliday. Um, absolutely. So, and they choose to do that, and they choose to have an unsecured military installation, and they choose to let these dirty agents and these uh, absolutely criminal generals um, betray their country, the Constitution, their people, their service members, and we see it. We see it, and that's why the numbers are so low right now, because the American people want to serve their country, but they have to get out of the military in order, out of government service to serve their country. To be in the government service right now is to be under the leaders that are have betrayed us and are really criminals that need to be arrested. And we see that with Milley. General Milley absolutely needs to be arrested. Um, and, you know, there's so many. There's so many. We have the evidence to do that. Now let's talk about Nadal Baim for a minute. Nadal Baim clearly pointed out the problem within the G3 of the 32nd ADCOM, because it was leaked to him that Richard had been found by the FBI, and found meaning his remains, that his remains were found by the FBI in Mexico. I talked to him on the phone. On the phone. I talked to his voice. We, Team Find Richard Halliday, found him out. Okay? The FBI knew exactly who he was. The CID knew exactly who he was. And we were told in a meeting that he was just some guy, some crazy guy following the Facebook. That's what we were told. That was not the truth. He, you know, and I thought that that was so absurd they feed you all kinds of absurdities. And, and I'm like, no, spit it out. I'm spitting it out. I'm not going to take in your absurdities. They are just toxic, toxic poison. It's not the truth, it's lies. And remember, these people are deceivers. They live to deceive. They live to deceive. Their whole existence is to deceive. They never tell the truth. Okay? And I think even some of them get paid to be deceivers. They exist to deceive. And they feed you this, this garbage, and you just, um, and I was like, no, that's not right. And, you're trying to handle it, um, gentle with gentleness, because who knows the truth, right? Who knows the truth? And I knew that that wasn't the truth. He's not just some guy. And I told them, what is my demographics for Find Richard Halliday at this point? Just a couple months in, it's all women. It's mainly all concerned women, because there are a lot of the Vanessa Guillen supporters are watching this. And that uh so that doesn't make sense at all. So who is this guy, this masked guy that we have on CCTV footage? And and we less than an hour while she was still working, this super heroic, strong, beautiful woman gave us a video testimony. Less than an hour. It is the most genuine testimony that we have. The most genuine. There is not a lie in there. There is no deception in this cashier's testimony. She just says, oh, they found him. He said he's with the FBI, and they found him. They found him in Juarez, Mexico. And then he said they were looking for him in 5 places. She goes, he lost me there. He lost me there. Right? She is so genuine. There is no doubt when you watch that video that she is telling you the truth. Her body language, her eyes, everything she's saying. And when you overlay her testimony to the video evidence, everything she says in that matches. It is the most genuine. And, she didn't have time. She was working when we got there. And we went into the back room to get the video, the CCTV footage. She had to work. She never watched, reviewed that CCTV footage. This is less than an hour after it actually happened. So what Nadal Baim did is tell us that there is corruption within the 30-second AdCom, because they had information, they leaked it out, but they had information that they leaked out, but they did not give it to the family of Richard Halliday. And why? Because Richard's Halliday identity absolutely was stolen. They were trying to preserve their jobs because of what was happening with Vanessa Guillen. And I think that Richard's remains were mishandled. They were mishandled because of some kind of benefit to somebody, right? And there is real crimes around the handling of Richard's remains. The dismemberment of it, the putting it in different locations, the DES saying on record that Richard was good food for the coyotes. Um, there's just so many things in this that is so wrong, that is absolutely motive for them to cover up, cover up, cover up, and want it to go away so that they could preserve, um, that they wouldn't be held accountable for this absolute criminal mess. But all of that is a result because of their choices and the choices they are still making to allow, to choose to have those criminal enterprises operational on our military installations by unsecuring our military installations. Our military installations are not secure, just like our border is not secure. And they're allowing and choosing to have an unsecured military installation that has vast amounts of weapons on them, and they're not securing them. But yet they make us, act like it has some security by showing the ID card, but they are absolutely not secure because they are flush with unregistered weapons that are ill-got. It is a marketplace for illegal drugs. They have child pornography. They have, all kinds of problems on these military installations that there's proof, because of the events that they can't hide, because of the incidents that they can't hide. And so, so they need to be held accountable. The what happened to Richard, what happened to Vanessa, what happened to Enrique, what happened to Austin Hawk, what happened to Elders Fernandez, what happened to many, many, many of these victims, these service members that are victims, is a result of the failure of leadership. The failure of leadership. Absolutely. And Mitt Romney is one big failure of leadership. One big failure of leadership. And that's the point. And Ronna McDaniel Romney, who, I don't know why the Republicans even have her. She loses everything, right? She loses everything. She's a failure of leadership. Why? Why is it so profitable for them to be failures as American leaders? Why? And there's a psyop. There is a mind control where we don't even ask, which leads us into the Patrick Crusius case. That so there was a thread before Patrick Crusius went into that Walmart and did his dirty deed. There was a thread. There was a thread at New Mexico State University, an incident, and we're getting behind that thread. It's a computer discussion thread, and that is, I think that's going to be evidence that really connects everything together. And there are criminal activities behind Patrick Crusius. And it connects the criminal activities that Richard was trying to expose, did expose. He's a hero. He's an absolute hero. The crimes that he was trying to expose, and that they absolutely did everything to try to cover up again, including his murder. Okay, the code red. And so that is, they were carrying out a lot of criminal activities. It was behind Patrick Crusius, and it was absolutely behind. That's my opinion from these people, because there's a thread. There's a thread, and Richard pulled on a string, um, but someone else created a thread, created a thread to pull on. And I think that that is a concerted effort, um, to manufacture a very deadly situation, and hate crimes, and hate crimes. So I left this video saying hate crimes because all of this is really hate crimes, right? It is a manufacturing of hate crimes, and not and I think the hate crimes, the real hate crimes, are the ones done by our leaders, in the military, specifically Mealy, specifically McConville, specifically Bernabe, specifically Eisenhower, specifically Garrett, specifically Martin, specifically Clem Coward, um, uh, manufacturing hate because it's their obligations to care for our service members. And instead, they didn't do that. Instead, they're manufacturing hate crimes. And they're, yeah. So when I talk about institutional support, I'm absolutely serious about that because this is a circle. Um, but there is a sphere of people in our government that really want to do the right thing. And so they are providing the investigations. They're, you know, wading through the corruption and gaining the public's support because without the public support, they are powerless. Okay, that's why these live streams are so important, and we can even focus a little bit on the soldier, very real soldier who is deployed at this moment, um, that put in for a congressional inquiry. And many of the questions are about Richard's case. Some are not. Some are about the suicides, the questionable suicides. There's so many. My husband went through 30 years in the military, and we talked about this. He never knew of anyone that committed suicide. 30 years. Okay. Something is very wrong going on right now in the military. There's so many suicides. So one of the questions is about the suicides. One of them is about the security breach of Fort Bliss, allowing these party girls to come in during the COVID. That's just a proof of the security breach, but also about this young 14-year-old being pimped out, living in the barracks. That's another security breach. Um, so, yeah, I can't remember everything that right off the top of my head. I need to look at it. I try to memorize it. But absolutely, in Richard's case, he wants an inquiry. And why not? Why is there not 100% support for this congressional inquiry into Richard Halliday's case? Why not? Or into Fort Bliss. Let's say it that way. Why isn't there not a 100 support for a congressional inquiry into the incidents uh, at Fort Bliss, surrounding what happened to Richard Halliday? Why not? Why not? Then all the truth would come out, right? Why isn't there 100%? Why aren't they rushing it in? And Veronica Escobar absolutely is the one that is obligated to have this congressional inquiry. and it was CC'd to Senator Ted Cruz. He absolutely knows about this inquiry. And, why not? Why not have it? They could be real heroes for Fort Bliss and El Paso and the surrounding areas, and even into Mexico. They would get so much support. And this is election. Why not do it? Why not find out what happened to Richard and stop all of this criminal activity on Fort Bliss? They would be absolute heroes, wouldn't they? And so, why is there anybody out there that doesn't want, that is not supporting this and not supporting this active duty soldier? Okay, everyone should be supporting this active duty soldier and surrounding him, um, because if everything is on the up and up, and it's not, that's why you see people, wanting to control the narrative to say this doesn't exist, or, this soldier doesn't exist, this complaint doesn't exist. It absolutely exists. Maybe I'll put that out this week, all the proof. He absolutely contacted us recently to say that CID agents told him something very concerning, that Richard was a closed case. And I'm like, okay, did they close the case? Well, give us all the information. Give us the file. If it's a closed case, give us a file. And uh, but they said, oh no, this is an open case. But why are you telling the active duty soldier that's inquiring about so many other things, including Richard Halliday's case, that Richard Halliday's case, because he's a witness to it, he did inform us that he's a witness to it. Um, so, um, why, why are they telling him it's a closed case? Because that is witness tampering. That is, they got caught in witness tampering, because when you say it's a closed case, then the witness doesn't want to pursue, prevents a witness from coming forward. And then that rumor gets out, and then people that are witnesses are prevented from coming forward. And so Richard is not a cold case, and he's not a closed case. He's very much an open case, and I want that to be, broadcast out there, because I don't want any witness to feel like they can't, it's too late for them to come forward. It is not too late to come forward. We have $150,000 for anyone that gives us credible information about the whereabouts of Richard. Absolutely. So please feel free to call 941-677-0060. It is not too late to come forward. And so what the CID did with this active duty soldier is really criminal. And so, of course, we put in that criminal complaint. Um, and yeah, there's more to it, but was it called a criminal complaint? A complaint? I have to ask Rob. So thank you so much for all your prayers. Thank you, Danielle, for coming on. I know it was very late tonight. Um, burning the midnight oil. Today is Sunday, family day. And, so I hope that you guys had a great day. And I'll be back tomorrow, God willing. So, have a great night.